Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the VCS English. We're getting ready to jump on in for two wonderful best of threes. First up, Burst the Sky taking on SBTC Esports, and then Saigon Buffalo taking on Luxury. Now, it wouldn't be very fun if I was the only one here. That's why I've got two wonderful analysts alongside me in the form of a Quincy and Rebel. Quincy, I'll go straight to you. Let's talk about this first game. Burst the Sky against SBTC. Both teams having lost 2-0 on their first day. Who do you think can bounce back first?
That's a very tough question because, I have seen the series on the first day and I was like, who do I even pick here? I want to say something nice, but I really struggle to say something nice about those teams because they really had an off day on day one. I hope so because, both teams definitely not in the best shape. I have seen Aomine picking the Twitch deliberately instead of the Jinx, which is something he rarely plays, if at all, and then he tends to lose on the pick somehow. And SBTC, on the other hand, considering them like one, yeah, it was actually Burst the Sky running back 80% of the enemy draft and then getting stomped by it. There was SBTC who, I dare say, drafting 3 losing lanes with a bad jungle pick and then losing the game, and then Emper just getting absolutely gapped by Hero, his former teammate. Also not the best look, but I want to say something nice. So I think Burst the Sky, considering they have been third in the last split, if Aomine finds back into a groove, I think Burst the Sky should have an edge here.
Well, I'm glad you kind of took the more aggressive approach to it because that means Rebel gets to say the nice stuff, and we all know how much Rebel loves saying nice things about teams.
That I do. The benefit of the doubt that I could give to both these teams is that we're very early into the split. I know SBTC made a lot of roster swaps, so we're expecting them to come more into their own right. And Burst the Sky was playing against Luxury, who was a top team, and they were definitely on form yesterday or 2 days ago when they first played. So I'm going to give a break to both these teams just because we're still quite early. We're still trying to figure things out. Burst the Sky, I think specifically, they get a little bit more time in my book because they earned it. They got third place, so I'm going to give them a minute. I agree. I don't think they had the greatest of starts off. They looked really, really rough compared to what we saw in the previous split. It seemed like every ounce of development that we had from them really just kind of went out the door. So we're looking to get Amelia back into form. We're looking to get Drakthar back into form. I know Glory also was not having the greatest of days altogether. So expectations definitely are to hopefully improve for Burst the Sky. And SBTC, I really do think a big part of what happened with them was that I want them to see a little bit more DNK action because DNK was really kind of quiet in both of their first series or both their first games. And that to me is a little bit of a travesty just because of how impactful DNK can be in the early game.
And I'm glad you bring up DNK because I feel that here in the VCS, the jungle role is so pivotal to how games do pan out. And while you mentioned DNK potentially stepping forward, I think the same could be said for Burst Sky and for Drakthar. We've seen how aggressive Drakthar can be, how much he can do for his team, and sometimes just carry the game by himself. But I feel like we're seeing almost a little bit of what we saw from Drakthar last split, in the winter split, where his first week was a little bit shaky, maybe just trying to get a better feel for the meta, Quincy.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen last bit with Drakthar that he just started out with the Udyr pick, which somehow other VCS junglers also picked up, despite it not really being convincing for either of them. The Udyr meta was like a little bit more longer ago, and now Drakthar is split. The jungle meta is kind of changing at the moment, so maybe we can give some leeway to all those junglers because currently, like with Stevax being nerfed and all those junglers not just going for the autopilot in the shop with like going Godric or Stevax junglers, and instead having to actually think about what items to build, it will be a bit harder for them. And also like finding out which champions are like the best because all these assassins junglers also being kind of nerfed, it is a bit harder for them. But because you have to question, do you still go for the Java? Do you still go for the Viego, for the Xinjiao, or do you just change it all up completely? And that is all basically for those junglers to find out. And I really wonder if DNK and Drakthar are up to the task because so far they haven't shown it.
Now, I have just been informed that SBTC will be playing with Simon in the top lane to replace Enper. And Rebel, I wanted to get your thoughts on that because we've seen Simon playing in the last split and he has played well. Do you think this makes sense that SBTC are making this swap after Enper's performance a couple of days ago against Team Secret?
I think it's worthwhile experimenting with this. I'm always in favor of teams being able to experiment early in the split to figure out what works for them because of just how much the second half of the split can change in terms of the VCS. We've seen it a number of different times. Even in the previous split, we saw kind of back half runs that have led to very, very massive shifts in what our standings look like. So here, this is SBTC saying, okay, Enper had really good C games. I will stand by that entirely. I watched him do very, very good things against top laners pretty much throughout the league. But he did have a great performance on day one. If they're trying to sub somebody out, then Simon coming in doesn't shock me, just because, of course, they've got two top laners that really have improved themselves, definitively in control of the starting position yet. One of them has to kind of step up and take that mantle up. I think more importantly, if Spot is playing today over DNK, which has also been handed to us as a little bit of information, that's another really interesting one because he's relatively new as well. And stepping in for somebody as established as DNK is a lot more interesting because it means that SBTC, for some reason, have paired the two together in terms of a top side of the map. That to me tells me they've got a game plan with those two.
Now, something else I do want to touch on is kind of looking at the season as a whole. And yes, we're still very early on into the season, just 1 week. But I feel that there have been two very different expectations set on Burst Sky and SBTC esports. I know for myself, Burst Sky you see being much higher up in the rankings, having finished third in the last split through playoffs, whereas SBTC, a lot of people would view as a bottom two team. So for Burst Sky, how important is it for them to be able to win this game and pick up their momentum? And for SBTC, when do they need to start getting wins? Because sure, if they lose the first few series as a brand new team, effectively, it's not that impactful, right, Quincy?
Definitely is. I mean, for Burst Sky, the pressure should be a bit higher because the expectations are just that much higher. I mean, with SBTC, they're kind of like in the rebuilding process, while for Burst Sky, the opposite is the case. I mean, they changed absolutely 0 players of the lineup, and you would expect them to synergize well, especially early on, have a little bit of an advantage. And now that they play like kind of these underdog teams against themselves, and if you do not start pick up wins here, I mean, you might just start 0-2 and then, hello Garm, hello Cerberus, those will be eventually your opponents as well, and you really wouldn't expect to win those series as well, especially if you have a bad start. So for Burst Sky, the pressure should really be high. Maybe not today yet, but if they happen to lose today, then they really would need to start questioning everything, because if you start 0-2 against those teams, then where do you even want to start picking up wins? Against Team Flash, maybe, but we saw even yesterday, Team Flash, this split is not a bottom feeder team that just is a free win for you. They also took their first win already, and I don't think Saigon Buffalo will be free either. So you better start winning now, or you maybe never start winning.
Rebel, essentially, same question to you as well. How important is it for Burst Sky to gather some momentum early on in the split?
So first things first, I'm of the belief personally that Burst the Sky struck above the weight class that they should have been in the previous split. I don't think that competing for a playoff spot was out of reach for them, but the fact that they were able to get third place, I think, was well above expectation that anyone would have held for that team. And that was a sentiment we shared pretty much the entire winter split until they went ahead and took the third place game, right? So I don't mind a little bit of fall off here. The important bit to me is that there is now going to be a definitive bottom side of the league, right? Like there has to be teams at the bottom. I feel like the bottom of this league right now is probably one of the highest floors that we've had in some time, right? Like especially after Flash had the performance they did in week one, or my apologies, in their first series. Team Secret being able to take a win very early on and looking really good doing it. When you're talking about the bottom of the table currently is made up of like Burst the Sky, who is our third best team, Saigon Buffalo, who's like pretty competitive, Cerberus, who is our second best team, and then SBTC. This is not company that SBTC wants to be among, nor does Burst the Sky, because of course if they get stuck at the bottom of the table, things aren't going to go well for them. So for both teams, it's important. For Burst the Sky, I think they want to keep their names within the realm of reality of like the playoff type situation, because they want to prove that they really weren't just like a one split wonder.
Now, I do want to touch on one more thing, and Rebel, I'm going to throw back to you because so far I've been giving Quincy first shot at all of my questions. And that is, what do SBTC want to play around? Because in their series against Team Secret, the first game was a bit yikes. Second game looked good. They were able to get a good lead into Celebrity, but not quite translate that in team fights. Do you think SBTC play around this bottom lane once again, or do you think it's time to try something new?
So when Enper was around, to me, I thought Enper was actually going to take quite a bit of resource. I thought DNK and Enper were kind of going to be like the primary focal point, and that Celebrity Palette had more than enough to be able to work with on top side. And all they really had to do was give 2T a solid matchup, and that was going to be enough for SBTC to be competitive in most situations. Now with Simon and potentially Spot inside of the lineup here today, I have to imagine that they're not going to put the ridiculous amounts of faith into the top side that I would have expected, and rather they are going to play more towards the bottom side, which also just makes sense, right? Like AD meta, it's among us. We've seen plenty of people actually go to it, and Celebrity is a great ADC to be able to kind of hang your hat on. So to me, SBTC, they can put their strength in one of the best and most solidified parts of their roster relatively easily by playing down towards the bottom lane. I think that's the safest bet here for them.
Quincy, would you agree with that, especially considering that the roster that SBTC are fielding for today, Celebrity is the only player who was on SBTC from Winter Split in this team?
I mean, I would definitely agree. I mean, Celebrity has shown like some signs of life in the last split as well, despite his team not being really like the best one. And also in the series they lost 2 days ago, I mean, Celebrity in that one game, together with Palette, was really like popping off. I mean, in the mid game, they really had the nice lead on the Jinx Nautilus lane against the Aphelios, and it was looking decently for them, at least in that second game against Team Secret. So I would also favor them playing around the bot lane, and with Spot and Simon coming in, I'm all up for it. Because I haven't seen Spot play ever and only seen one game of Simon in the Winter Split. So I'm really looking forward to see what those two guys will really bring.
Well, you don't have long to wait before we get to see Spot in action, because we are heading into picks and bans. 3 bans already coming through from both sides. And Rebel, we saw a lot of Lee Sin yesterday, and we're going to be getting some more Lee Sin today.
Our Lee Sin in C games was on pretty much any jungler that had a hold of it, and so I love that they're putting this into Drakthar immediately, because it's something that he can control the map a lot better with. There was something that was missing in their first day of games for Burst the Sky. It felt like they didn't have a bunch of jungle pressure. I don't think Drakthar was necessarily like the worst player on the squad, but like compared to what had come about from him in the previous split, the expectations were far higher. So this is a champion I feel like he can burst back into the scene with and be able to kind of make this massive impact that you'd expect from him.
And I don't like SBTC. I don't like SBTC picking up the Xin Zhao so early, because I mean they could have just went with the Jinx Flash lane here, and you could just pick the Xin Zhao on the R3 rotation here to really like match the jungle pick. So now Aphelios Flash would be open for the side of Burst the Sky, and they are going for Aphelios Leona instead, but the point still stands. You could have picked your support here, whatever you would prefer here, and I think SBTC went a bit too early here to really solidify that part of the lane. And now I wonder which kind of band they're going for, because Twisted Fate Victor would be like my next 2 options for mid lane here.
And I want to quickly touch on this Tahm Kench, Rebel, because I think this is the first Tahm Kench support game we're getting in the VCS. And Quincy mentioned the Thresh to pair up with the Jinx. How would you compare these 2 supports, and what do you think the Tahm Kench can offer that the Thresh can't?
So Tahm Kench was played by Saigon Buffalo in their 3rd game by Taki, if I recall. So this is something that's reared its head, and it's starting to rear its head a little bit more after some of the changes to Tahm Kench to put it back into the support role. I think with Jinx specifically, it gives you the option to have something that can play towards the laning phase if you bring additional pressure down. So like if Xin Zhao starts to roam to bottom lane, you know, the W, some of the engage that comes out from Tahm Kench is difficult to deal with. But more importantly, there's still protection. When the level 6 hits, all of a sudden the Jinx doesn't have to worry as much. To me, it feels a lot more like a more aggressive, more frontliney type champion that Thresh would fill normally, where like Thresh's Lantern helps to reposition, and you can play towards some of the gank setup. Tahm Kench has that same kind of gank setup, soaks a little bit more damage. The ultimate is a little bit less consistent of a cooldown timer for defense, but here they might not just be super worried about what offense is coming about, just because Jinx outranges the Aphelios at this stage of the game.
Quincy, we are seeing the final few bans that are coming through. What I do want to touch on is the fact that SBTC are on red side, which means that they have counter pick. And the question I have for you is, who do they want to save their counter pick for, Simon or 2T?
I mean, I would expect them to go for 2 tier, because they just subbed in Simon. I don't think Simon will be like the strong side top laner they are looking for, because they have Emperor for that job. So I would expect them to pick a safe top laner now and then go for a mid lane last pick, whatever that may be. They are 4 mid laners banned, and Twisted Fate and Victor are neither of them. So I actually want to see that maybe the Victor now, because you can now deny it for places, but otherwise I would actually have expected them to go for the last pick for 2T here. But I mean, with Victor being so strong, being left on the table, you could just pick it. Granted, Dazo, if Glory gets TF and plays it well, it could be very hard in the early game for the side of SBTC here.
And Rebel, what do you really expect Glory to match this Victor with? Corki banned away, Syndra banned away as well.
Yeah, even the Rise Bandaway, which is something that he played on the first day, which I think is a little bit rough. The Orianna is like old school Glory, where like Glory is kind of like this control mage player, and the Orianna is something that I'm super accustomed to seeing Glory play a little bit more. Because it's not this like superstar, like insane damage type mid laner. It's something that just fits with the rest of the team really effectively, the way that Glory likes to kind of contribute to a team fight. And especially with what they've got in their back pocket, now you throw in like a Nara into the mix, which is the blind pick here specifically for the side of Burst the Sky. A Lee Sin, you got good ball delivery alongside the Leona, and you've got a lot of AoE damage with the Aphelios to pair with. It's just a standard team fighting team to me. Burst the Sky just simplified their drafts from day one, and they said, okay, let's go back to something stock standard, and let's try to take an easy win against SPTC.
I quite like this draft so far from Burst Sky Quincy, and now it's on SBTC. How do they want to round things up? And they're looking, and they will lock in the Gragas into this now.
Yeah, I just want to say like any tank pick. I would have liked maybe a Scion into the Na or maybe even the Malphite, but the Gragas is also like a bit more standard in the current meta because the Fimbulwind Everforce item build he can go, or even other tank items that are least for him, aside from the mythic choices, which would be like the Frostfire Gauntlet. And Gragas very much meta right now, you can go it. Even get surprisingly much priority in the early game here, and maybe they even need that because Victor won't have much of that in the first few levels against the Orianna, I would expect. And I actually like both drafts, which is a rare sight in the VCS. And gotta say, Burst the Sky though with the easy to play comp, maybe at the highest level it would be the worst comp, but I think Burst the Sky, it's just a standard Bombo combo with Orianna Shockwave. I think that is something you really want to look for if you're struggling early, and I think Burst the Sky kind of has a slight edge because of that alone, because the easier to play comp would be favored here.
Now, before I get your predictions, I have done some quick fact checking. Glory has been playing since Season 10, and in both Season 10 and last year, he has played the Orianna. He has played a total of 7 games on the champion. Quincy Rebel, would you like to hazard a guess as to how many of those games he has won?
0.
Exactly.
3. Oh.
No, 0, Quincy. So, now, bearing that in mind, I would like you to let me know who you think has won the draft and who you think will take the opening game. Quincy, I'll go to you first.
SPTC has won the draft, so Burst the Sky wins game 1.
I think, to be quite honest, if I were playing out a draft like this, the only thing I really prefer, I think, from the side of SPTC is the Jinx, ultimately. I don't even mind the Orianna into the Victor matchup, but I think it's not bad. And I like the Lee Sin more than I like the Xin Zhao, because I feel like it can attack earlier, at least from what I've seen from the VCS and inside of C games. I'm going to say BTS won the draft, and they're going to win first game.
Well, we have 2 wonderful casters raring to go to take us through game 1. Carrix, Yulwei, take us away.
Thank you for that one, Milky. I'm happy to get into the game. I'm happy to get onto the rift with my good friend Yulwei. It's been far too long since we've had some VCS to yell at together. Both of these teams with a lot to prove coming in. Spot, the once prodigy, coming back from a ban, trying to prove that the hype is deserved. What do you think of this one, Yulwei? What do you think of these drafts?
Well, we are still in the very first week, and still there's so much on the line for both of these teams. We know there are only 14 series, so every single one counts, and both of these teams started 0-2, not in series, but in score, so 1 series down. Yeah, and especially Sky, after a super successful winter split, their best ever result for all of these players, actually. They need to back it up today. Drugthar against Spot. Drugthar had a little bit of a spotty performance in the first series, so let's see how he handles Spot on the other side today. But I'm also very excited to talk about Spot, because yeah, he is a little bit of the mysterious boy of the VCS, forever lost in VCSB, and now he's finally back on the stage. So I don't think he's going to be as good as a DNK, but who knows, maybe he's going to be able to prove me wrong in this very first game on stage.
Yeah, we will have to say, is Paulette and Celebrity having a bit of a wander up. Paulette is also someone that, you know, used to have a lot more hype around him than perhaps he does now, moving off the Flash roster over to the Super Big Time Chickens. What do you think of Paulette? Do you think he has the opportunity to bounce back, or do you think his time in the sun is over?
I need to see a little bit more tape. I think his winter split was very rough and rightfully was replaced with Artie at the end. That's not something you want to hear someone saying about you as a support player. Not that Artie's bad, but he's a rookie and you are a multi-champion, multiple champion of the VCS, so it might have been a little bit of not feeling the split. I'm not quite sure, not feeling the roster on Flash, which also is kind of deserved. So I'm going to give him a little bit of time, but if he doesn't step up soon and be one of the main carries of SPTC, then I think we really have to question Paulette's whole career, not his whole career, of course, but at least the current state of career.
Yeah, for sure. Celebrity getting chunked out. Paulette tries to use that Abyssal dive to try and save him. Doesn't quite land, though, so this Jinx is getting chunked out hard. Very good early Aphelios play coming out of Almine, but he gets tagged with a zap. Has to back off with the onslaught, but he's okay for now.
Yeah, Almini playing on the edge here, very aggressive Aphelios, and Spot is here to make his first move. It's against Mininar though, and Mininar is going to have an easy time walking away. Simon needs to... Oh, never mind, Druxa on the other side, a dive.
Dragstar wants to make a play. Elio moves in, lands a CC immediately. Celebrity in so much trouble. First Blood will go over to the Aphelios. They want to trade it back onto Elio, though. If they can, 2T flashes forward.
He needs to get this.
Auto, though. This is disastrous. He has to get this. It's another flash invested. They're not going to get it your way. He's just going to walk out of this one. The laser. No, he finally does get him. It must have been a scorch there. Oh my word, or a corrupting pot even, 2T. They had to use everything, but they do get him the kill.
They get him the kill. That was absolutely crucial. If he doesn't get the kill there, he's behind in farm, he's behind in experience and lane positioning. It's basically over for the mid lane. Glory already is the better mid lane, and now he has to get away from this gank. He doesn't have flash.
Oh, he's in a lot of trouble. He will use the blast cone. Not good positioning there by Dragstar at all. Gets knocked the wrong way. 2T, he's got a minion wave to hide behind. Can he outplay this? Oh no, your way, it's a disaster!
That's a kill to Victor. It's a 1-for-1, but Victor getting the kill is actually kind of equalizes the support assist gold. So I think 2T has gotten away with a pretty decent position. Now his wave is going to get frozen potentially by Spot and Paulette here as well, so he's going to come back to a nice minion wave awaiting him in mid lane. But let's take another look at this dive. A very risky one. We take aggro on Elio, which is definitely the good thing to do, but yeah, the teleport from 2T. At this point, you are already consigning Elio to death, and you're saying, okay, it's a 1-for-1, that's fine for us, we got so many resources that it almost goes horribly wrong. They get another flash from Paulette, which can be crucial. Paulette is not easy to kill, but then again, if you get on top of him and if you have enough damage, he doesn't really bring enough mobility to get away either. So in the end, a very spicy early game. Druxa really feeling himself on the Lee Sin. Maybe a little bit too much even, flashing over here. The flash wasn't... I mean, the flash made sense because he had to cover the right side, so 2T couldn't escape to the other side. And the dive, I don't like the dive too much. But yeah.
I mean, I think the flash was fine.
Yeah, the flash was actually good.
Angled it wrong. Yeah, the flash was great. He just angled it wrong.
No, he actually angled it correctly because he wanted to block the right part. So it was okay for him to not go to the same spot as 2T. The more important thing was for him to cut the escape route towards the right-hand side. So it was okay for him to bounce to the other side.
Fair point your way, very well spotted. This is why you're the color caster, of course, as 2T is now shoving a wave in under tower. And just going to immediately just cop a recall, go back to base. He is now 10 CS down, but of course those 2 kills give him plenty of gold to catch up. And also 50 stacks of his passive, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's the huge part for sure. He's still struggling in lane and he doesn't have flash, so huge opportunity for Druxa to look for something here. Glory doesn't have flash either, so not the easiest setup ever, but you can see Glory is freezing the wave, or trying to. He didn't really manage to put the freeze into the best position, so now the wave is going to bounce back slowly. But still, Victor a little bit exposed without flash, and Dragthar getting closer to level 6. This could even be Elio roaming. Yeah, you can see Elio's already moving towards mid lane, and you can see the pinks coming in. I love the double pink ward position. Look at this. Both sides know exactly what's up in the mid lane. Both mid lane is without flash, so everyone is aware of what is in store for them. But let's see how they counterplay the actual play. Well,
The E's thrown. That's one way to do it your way. Just walk away from it.
yeah, now TT in the better
Leona
position.
cannot E you without your consent.
Apparently. Now TT is able to stay under tower. He's relatively healthy as well, has ultimate available, so he has escaped the immediate danger. And now there's another opportunity for SPTC to potentially counterplay mid lane aggression with the upcoming Rift Herald. Instead, it's Spot on the Dragon, which is nice because they synced it up with the Elio roam, which means bot lane pressure into Dragon should be a free objective for them. Ooh, or is it that free? It looks like they're going to trade for the Rift Herald, as they invested a lot of resources into bot lane, and Dragthar is immediately running towards the other objective, so not quite a free Dragon, but definitely a nice little macro play for them to acknowledge the fact that Elio was missing from bot lane and investing their time to shove the bot lane into a Dragon.
So I think this is an interesting thing to keep track of, because obviously in terms of a one-to-one comparison, this is a win for Sky. One Dragon does very little compared to a first Rift Herald, which does quite a lot. But this is now going to be a test, in my opinion, for SE to see if they realize the play they've made, if they've done it intentionally, and now we see a lot more focus around stacking towards the Dragon Soul. Because this is something I've criticized the SPTC for in the past. Of course, it's a very different roster. Sometimes they make very disjointed moves without thinking of an overall game plan, and that's not something I want to see.
Yeah, we've seen many teams fall flat in the mid game when they have a 2k, 3k gold lead, and then the Dragons actually strike back and lead the enemy team from behind to a soul. So I definitely agree with this. They need to be the proactive team and make the play. They have the honors of execution on their side. The enemy team has basically already put in their work, and now it's on Sky to deliver. Plat's only level 5, Ilya's level 5 as well, but Almina already level 7, so a little bit of extra experience funneled into him. He has the white gun available, so potentially a lot of tower damage to be done, but yeah, Sky not really forcing the issue on the bot side for now, so everyone just waiting for the opportunity, maybe waiting for the one crucial mistake. I'm not sure if I like that. I think Sky could have tried to play this a little bit more proactively, made use of the nice gun combination here on Aomine, and just put a lot of pressure into the bot lane instead. They're going to reset, and let's see where they're going to strike next, or at least attempt to strike next.
Yeah, it wasn't a very strong reset for Almine either. I'm pretty sure he only picked up a ward and a pot. So I completely agree with you. I think they should have been very, very much more proactive, tried to get him towards his Gale Force. But, alas, they did not. Looking at this top lane matchup, not a lot has gone on. This is pretty much how we expect it to go. Nah has control of the lane. We'll get that CS lead, but it's a Gragas. He doesn't care.
Well, he doesn't really care for himself, but looking at the goal totals, the teams actually do care, because Sky is getting very far ahead without even using the Rift Herald, so if the Rift Herald is able to get first tower, the game could just be broken open entirely. You can get to a 3k gold lead, which would basically enable you to dominate the next 10 minutes of the game. So this is a precarious spot now for SPTC. They were the worst early game team, and at the end of Winter Split, even worse than Flash, they gave Flash the only serious win, and mostly due to their abysmal early game performances, so they really need to step up. It's a different team, it's a different lineup of players. Some of them stayed, of course, but we're setting up for the first tower in top lane. This should be pretty easy, but they spent a lot of time, so now Dragthar, where are you?
This is a huge collapse, but Dragthar is on the Lee Sin. He's got so much mobility that he is able just to dance away, but the Herald will not be dropped. This appears to be a very much blunted play.
Very nicely done from SPTC, acknowledging the fact that the top lane tower was low enough to be executed, so they immediately moved 4 members to defend the top lane. Not quite the result they wanted. They wanted to basically upset the play and get 1 or 2 kills. Instead, they just thwart the initial advance, which will give them Well, a little bit more time to react, I guess. Not really that much tangible gain for SPTC, but still nice to see their map rotation. But they are bleeding so much gold on these turrets. Look at that. Aomina gets another 160. So even though the Rift Herald hasn't been put to use, Sky has still been able to just mine turret gold in every single lane.
They have, and it is leading to this little bit of a lead as finally the Herald is summoned up. SPTC does have 3 members around the play, but I don't think Sky want anything more than the tower plate. No, they don't. They just walk away. So, still, we have a very slow early game here your way, but 2k gold lead to Sky. They're looking good so far.
And even though the whole play, you have to say, is positive for Sky, this is all back to the Dragon for Rift Herald trade, and the next Dragon is coming up, so it took them 5... Wow, Druktha!
Whoa, Draktha, calm down, mate. He's just flown in. The Lee Syndrome coming in real big there. The rocket's going to whip in, only hit onto Elio. Draktha lives, but he's now extremely low, and as you were saying, Dragon's only 5 seconds away.
And there's no need for that. Druktha, check your timings. I mean, he's going to get back to full HP because jungle is a very balanced role, as you can see. But still, he didn't even use his smite, so might actually not be consequential. And now, if SPTC overchase into this dive, they might just give up the next dragon.
Yeah, they might. Paulette taking the low spot, has to flash. This is not an ideal situation. Paulette does tick back up, that grey health coming in handy.
Glory STP.
Decent gun for Almine. Definitely think they want to fight over this one. They don't want to just give it up as Draktha enters the pit very early. Has to flash away. No, never mind. It
Look
was
at Lowry.
W away, my mistake.
Oh!
There's the reset. There's the flamethrower going in. Elio! Glory doing well. The shockwave is absolutely huge. Ripping SPTC apart. Spot taken down. And Sky pick up 4.
It's a wombo combo masterclass. Everyone just chaining their abilities together at the same spot. Beautifully done. Glory from the other side. He could have TP'd towards his team and just approached the dragon from the same side. He was confident enough to play super riskily on this relatively squishy champion, come from the other side, provide another threat, and basically corral them into this spot where they were just completely lost. And what a bounce back from Sky from their earlier performance this week. Look, it's so beautiful. It's all at the same time. Oh, Elia's ult could have been placed a little bit better, I think, but apart from that, just perfection from Sky, leading with Aphelia's ult into Orianna ult, into Leona ult, and everyone dies instantly. It's a 2-0 for Angle, for Aomina, and Druktha is accelerated. Same goes for Glory. So now the team is up to a 5k gold lead. They hold the Dragon Snowball, everything going Sky's way.
It sure is blue sky days. As, yeah, 5k gold lead, as you said. This is a dominant performance. That fight was so perfectly executed.
Objective bounties are here.
Oh, wow. That's a good system. I love them. I want to give Glory credit just once again. I know you already said it, but the ball positioning was so good, and the shockwave was so big. And SPTC, they are actually going to try and make a play around these objective bounties, trying to get Celebrity more gold. This Jinx still potentially able to carry. It is a Kraken Slayer Jinx, but they've got to be careful as Ryuki's moving forward. A good cleanse will get him away. Now all 5 members of SPTC are around this tower. They have to get this.
Yeah, and Sky kind of squandered their time. Yeah, I think Ryu can just get away. Oh, never mind, Spot.
Oh,
okay.
what?
Fair enough. I mean, Sky really wasted a little bit of time. They could have put pressure on the mid and the top lane outer tower much earlier. They're going to use the Herald, so they took some time off to take the Herald, so this is going to give them another tower in the top lane. In the end, it's 2 towers won against objective bounties. That's still a positive trade, especially in map positioning, with the mid lane outer tower going into Aomina's pockets and just falling in general. Means Sky has complete control over the top side of the map, which, to be fair, is not the greatest thing to have at 16 minutes. It's nice, but then again, there's not really an objective to spawn that's gonna be of relevance there. Baron is going to come up in 4 or 5 minutes, so you're going to look at that objective. Your Baron damage is decent, not amazing, but okay. So in the end, it's a little bit of life for SPTC, but look at the gold lead, it hasn't moved a bit, and it's more gold funneled into Aomina, and we know how scary he can be on these team fighting ADCs.
Yeah, 100%. The issue SPTC have here is they're putting a lot of gold into Celebrity, which I think is the right decision. but it's not like Almine falls off. Like, there's debates to be had about who the better teamfight scaling ADC is. I think Aphelios and Jinx, yeah, people will disagree. I think most people lean
Depends on
towards
comp.
Jinx, but there's no canyon between them. This is not the comparison of, Draven versus Jinx.
Oh, for sure.
Aphelios, he's going to scale just fine.
And the cool thing about Jinx as a championess, even though I think she's very overrated, she is very dependent on the enemy composition and how she's scaling, and this composition is very hard to play for her in the late game because there is so much threat. You have to keep in mind Aomina's ultimate, you have to keep in mind Elio's ultimate, you have to keep in mind the flank potentially from Ryuk and Drakthar, and you always have to keep an eye on the ball from Glory. So Celebrity is not in a state where he's just going to have the late game fantasy Jinx staying back and attacking from 700 range. Even 700 range is not going to be enough. So he can carry, he does potentially have the damage potential later, but it's going to be a very hard game to play. And you saw him overstep just against Ryuk at the tower, and he immediately had to flash. If he ever does that in a team fight, he's done for. So he cannot afford to step out of line a single bit. And this is one of the differences between Jinx and a few of the other ADCs, as Ryuk has overstayed. But he should be fine.
Yeah, but he flashes away. There's a teleport coming. This is bold. It's a 2v3 at best. Drakthar coming in from the side. Glory ripped out the ultimate, done a whole lot of nothing with it. Almine misses the Moonlight Vigil as well, but it just doesn't matter. They're too far ahead your way as the ADCs are raining in damage, but it's Almine that's drawing the blood as another one will fall. Spot tagged up with the Gravitum, rooted up for a moment, but I don't think they want to go on the tower for him. I think they just want the tower. This was a play that SBTC started, but Sky ended it.
Yeah, and definitely a play that shouldn't go Sky's way. In a more even game state, they would have definitely thrown a ton here, but they're too far ahead. Now 10k in the lead, so they can just brute force their way to teamfights victories, and we saw one of the biggest trolls of all time in that team fight, so I'm going to leave a little bit of suspense for the replay. But yeah, this basically means the game is over. There is an opportunity for SBTC to get an objective bounty and a dragon, but in the meantime, keep your eyes on Palette's ultimate. I think this is one of the biggest trolls I've ever seen out of Tahm Kench, reminiscent of Mythy Tahm Kench, I think. Look at him here. 2T could just step back into his base, instead he gets gobbled. It's so good.
Palette! I didn't see that on the live
so
play.
funny.
Palette! That's reportable!
You just insta-killed him. The dragon did go over to SPTC, so they claimed another dragon, and they claimed an objective bounty on the dragon. Now, I do agree with most people that objective bounties are very inconsequential in most situations. It's just not enough gold to really turn the tide of the game, but it's a little bit of gold, and we see 2 items finished for Celebrity, so at least he's kind of getting there. I mean, the most expensive item is still to be built for him, but we see a good weapon combination for the Baron, and it's going down super quickly.
That it is, and look, SVTC at this point, you don't have too many options. You just need to throw things at the wall, and hopefully some of that spaghetti sticks. Because right now, it's not looking like a great meal. Sky, dashed up in the purple. Dragon, 4 minutes away. SPTC still a long, long way from Seoul. This is just going to be a test of how cleanly Sky closes games out.
Usually they're very good in the mid-game, at least in winter they were a very decisive team, very good at forcing fights with their dive compositions. It's a little bit of a different look today. They have some diving options, especially in the supportive cast, but their two main carries aren't quite the Kaisers we've seen, the Silases we've seen from Glory and Aomine, so a little bit more respectful, hopefully, in the next team fights. This could be a throw coming from them. But generally, I want to zoom out and think about Sky a little bit. It's very hard to make sweeping statements in week 1, and we saw them struggle a lot against Luxury. Now, this was also due to Luxury playing well, but Sky just looked disjointed. They looked lost on the map, lost in communication. Today is a huge step up for them. And yeah, maybe it's just SPTC being the worst team in the league. That is definitely possible. But just looking at Sky's performances without even taking into consideration what SPTC has been doing, it's a pretty clean game.
Yeah, honestly it is. as they build up this siege on the mid lane, 2 lanes pushing in. SBTC is able to fend this off. I mean, Baron this early in the game, it's good, obviously, but it's not amazing because you can't really dive under the towers or anything like that and actually really secure the win. But nonetheless, Sky in full control your way.
You can see the differences between Barons across different regions and different games. Baron from ahead is such a strong objective, because the enemy team can't punish you. Baron doesn't really give you anything in team fights, a little bit of stats, but especially this early, it's 20 AD, who cares? But it gives you so much pushing power, and when, there we go.
Yeah, they're going to try and prove me wrong. They do just go under the tower. They immediately blow up one member. Paulette will soon be following. Spot the next to go down. Another shockwave landing as well. Almine has been caught out, has been taken down, but I think he'll take that trade for 4 members of the enemy team. They take down an inhibitor. They will move over to a crashing wave in mid, take down a second. And they show that you actually can do a whole hell of a lot with the first Baron buff, as 3 inhibitors are about to fall at 23 minutes.
You can when you're this far ahead. Baron, for me, is a win more objective nowadays. You're not really able to just take the Baron in an even game state and siege the base. That's super risky. You're still exposing yourself to easy flanks, and most of the time we see teams trying to do that. They fail, they get collapsed on, they lose, and then everyone says, oh, Baron was such a huge mistake, or misplay with the Baron buff. But most of the time Baron is just a little bit of control, a little bit of gold. But if you're this far ahead, you can use the Baron minions to get into super good positions, and there we see Sky using them to set up the dive. Almine got a little bit too excited here, just walked into the Victor AoE and got shut down by a rogue rocket from Celebrity, but in the end it doesn't matter. 3 inhibitors down, the game is absolutely over. Can we finish sub 25 minutes? I'd guess so, but let's see what Sky does. And if SBTC has anything to say for themselves, one last ditch effort against 3 super minion waves.
Yeah. I don't know how they hold this one off. I think even just the super minions on their own, based on how SBTC has been playing, might be a bit too much for them. And when you add in the rampaging Sky, I think they're in a lot of trouble, as they actually do clear out the first wave. But
there they come.
Because they keep on coming and they don't stop coming.
Ooh, nicely
Tagged up
done.
on Spot, who has done a whole lot of nothing this game. The kills are coming in immediately. Gragas and Jinx have been removed straight away. Back onto the Summoners platform does go too, but I don't think they can do anything. Spot frontlining, the Crescent Guard buying him time, but time does not mean wins, as he will finally fall. Paulette and 2T left to merely watch their base fall, preserve their KDA, as Sky bounce back from a horrible first series to take a dominant game 1.
And was it just Sky looking good or SPTC looking bad? I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, a lot of column A actually. Sky bouncing back, as you said, and they look revitalized. They look like first series against Luxury never happened. We need to see more. We need to see them confirm this kind of performance. But this is also the very first win for Laurie on Orianna, so he can definitely play this champion as well. He actually looked quite good. I really liked his effort in the dragon fight. Is slow, especially for Sky's usually very fast and aggressive early games. This was a rather slow game, but controlled and very clean.
Yeah, for sure. And to see if SBTC can bounce back or if they will go down like dogs. We'll be back in about 5 minutes with our analyst desk. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you very soon.
Guys, we're back. To be honest, I expected us to have a bit of a longer break since the start of the first game. But here's the thing. Burst the Sky absolutely slaughtered SBTC in the opening game of the series. It's like they took some of that energy that Luxury beat them with and handed it to SBTC. And Rebel, I think this game was a case of the bullied became the bully.
Yeah, I actually went back and kind of poked through the VOD during our little break here between Burst the Sky and SBTC. And it occurred to me that even when DNK was in the lineup, it was actually Drakthar kind of running things inside of the jungle. And that kind of happened in this one as well. The very early game was dictated by his pacing and his pacing alone. And that allowed for Burst the Sky to play a lot more like what we saw in the previous split. Eventually, you got to a point where everybody was contributing to the big team fights. I think Ryuk had some great moments. Amine had some okay moments. Elio was a little bit quiet, but Glory had more than enough for everybody to kind of share around. So it was exactly what I think I wanted to see from Burst the Sky after that first series, which didn't go so well.
And Quincy, one of the biggest things that we talked about with Burst the Sky was Drakthar. Could he improve after his series against Luxury? He played a lot more aggressively to the extent that we thought he was making some int plays. The blue buff, the bit where he jumped into the Drake there and then jumped right back out too early. So we got to see that aggression from Drakthar. So my question now is, do you want to see more of the same aggression, or do you want to see him maybe rein in some of that aggression?
Actually, more of the latter, because I mean, this game it looked fancy, it looked cool, it also worked, but did it really work because of that? I mean, you just addressed the point where he just jumped into the Drake pit very early, then back out. Maybe that was just a distraction for the beautiful shockwave setup for Glory later on in the skirmish, but I don't think Drakthar really has to do much here, because we just have seen Burst the Sky having 3 winning lanes and spots. I haven't seen him show up before, as I mentioned earlier. I haven't seen him show up this time as well, but it wasn't really his fault, because I mean, what are you really working with if all your lanes are losing?
Well, he's going to have to find something. However, Rebel, I want to go back over to SBTC, because we saw in their 2-0 loss to Secret. First game was bad, just like it was in this series, but then they were able to pick things up in game 2. Do you think that they have the potential to do that once again, or do you think that this series is already looking a bit too far gone?
It's kind of tough to say, mostly because that felt like a pretty rough game from... it wasn't even Spot necessarily that had the rough game. If I had to put it the onus on somebody, 2T walked out of the early game with 2 kills and a lot of points on the victor to be able to get the E upgrade, yet somehow still dropped a ridiculous amount of laning pressure to the Orianna. Even after he got those early kills, got the early upgrades for like the evolution and everything along those lines, 2T has not been having a good split to begin with. And I know he's very young and he's very raw to this, but this is not a look you want to see from a rookie like mid laner that you're kind of banking the entire future on for this SBTC organization. So you got to figure out what's going to work for 2T, right? Like if it's not the Victor pick, you got to figure out something that he's going to be comfortable on, because you cannot have a Victor that gets like the E upgrade at the beginning of the game and gets 2 kills in his back pocket for itemization, losing outright and having like a 40 CS deficit to Glorion and Orianna in the early game.
I feel that somewhere there's a reference to other rookie mids performing badly at the start, Harvey, but I'm not going to make any of those references. Instead, I'm going to throw it back to Quincy. For the upcoming game, I want to talk about the top lane, because we had Ryuk and... okay, he was on the Gnar. He didn't... nothing really happened in the top lane, is essentially where I'm going with this. So, do you think that maybe we'll see Simon playing something more aggressive for this second game? Or do you think it's going to be another case of both teams saying, yeah, we don't care about top lane, we're going to focus on the bottom side of the map?
I mean, that's one thing. Maybe Simon is not even playing. That's like the one thing that is maybe in question here. Maybe they just go back to the other top laner, going back to Nagia here, or maybe even change the jungle position again. Because I mean, you just brought in. You don't need to say sorry, because I mean, maybe Simon is indeed playing. We will find out in a few seconds, I guess. And yeah, maybe even the jungle position is something you could maybe change again, because I mean, they just bought DNK for some reason. So I hope that they really have a plan with what they're going with. Also, what they did do just now is changing the side, so maybe that is something that might help SBTC finding a better foothold, finding a draft that really works well in their favor, because I think the draft was fine, but they just got gapped in all 3 lanes, and maybe they just need to find more comfort picks to really have a say in what happens in the early game here, because Burst the Sky in game 1 was definitely all over them, and Gnar into Gragas is something that the Gragas shouldn't lose too hard. He also didn't lose it too hard, but it really doesn't do you a favor if even 2T or the Fat Victor cannot really impact the lane anymore and doesn't really win anything here. And yeah, we are indeed seeing Emperor and DNK in for SBTC.
Now, Rebel, we usually say better draft loses. So what is the worst pick that SBTC could take on their first pick?
Okay, so there's a number of things that they could go to right here, but I guarantee you the one that would make everybody here probably just like lose their mind is probably the Renekton, which is just funny to me because there's been so many complaints about that pick specifically over the time. This is interesting, is to go for the first pick Nidalee. It is DNK back in the lineup, and he wants to be able to push the tempo of a game like this against Drakthar. My problem is you've given him Lee Sin, and I guess you've given Ryuk Renekton at the R1 position instead. Now, Ryuk is the one person that's like, all right, he doesn't really play anything else, so like we're okay with the Renekton going into his hands. But honestly, Drakthar now kind of has his pick of the litter of what he wants to play into the Nidalee. Whatever choice he decides to make could be pretty impactful because they've given away the cards already on SBTC's side.
Now, critically, I know we memed about the Renekton pick, but I kind of understand why Burst Sky take it. If you lock in Nidalee, you're kind of thinking that there's a Renekton that could be picked up for Emperor in the top lane, so Burst Sky have denied that away. But now SBTC say, hey, you've got the Aphelios. Is this a Jinx Thresh angle for them?
It is a Jinx Thresh angle, and speaking of the Renekton pick, it's not just a takeaway away from Renekton Nidalee potentially, which would be a very brutal top side. Also, Ryuk is a pretty decent Renekton, and they have found success with the Renekton in the winter split, with their competitions that have been like Ryuk, weak side with Renekton, Glory into Lissandra, and the Kai'Sa bottom lane for Aomine with an engage support. That worked wonders for them. I'm not sure if that is playable anymore. I mean, they also just drive away from it with the Aphelios locket, which I definitely welcome here, but I guess SBTC prefers to go for the Jinx Nautilus lane, which would, of course, still make Thresh possible for Elio. But I'm not too sure if Elio really likes to play Thresh. In my head, I don't really remember many Thresh games of him, if any at all. But Lee Sin, of course, still a very strong jungler on the table, will be locked in for Drakthar. And we have seen it in game 1. It definitely did do well there.
Well, that leads him in for Drakthar Rebel. A lot of aggression, but I want to just turn attention back towards SBTC. Because one of the biggest things whenever you do have that Nidalee in the jungle is having the setup, having the lockdown, so it's very easy for DNK to land the spears. You've got the Nautilus, you've got Flame Chompers. Do you want more setup to come through from the solo laners of SBTC, or do you think that's enough?
Well, if you're asking me what I think is going to happen, it kind of depends. This isn't a meta that necessarily kind of bodes itself towards it. Although there's been a bunch of top laners that have been removed that don't have CC. You think about like the Gwen and the Graves that are both taken out of the pool to make sure Emperor doesn't have anything like that. The Jace is now gone as well. So it's more and more likely that we're going to get set up. Now, if you're asking me as a person, if I were deciding what SBTC was playing, I would lock 2T inside of a dumb baby mid laner jail and put him on Galio, which is what seems to happen to whatever worst mid laner in the split ends up going to. It wouldn't shock me because you'd be able to support any kind of diving that DNK wanted to do. It would force Emperor onto something AD and something a little bit more carry oriented as well. Most likely, hopefully something that can dive like a Camille alongside it, which I think would actually put a pretty decent rounding out to the SPT composition here. But of course, versus Sky, they're geniuses. They know everything about the Drakthar fan club and our thought process because they take the Camille off the board.
Yeah, and okay, I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to look at the SBTC bans. It looks like there's one missing. I see the Braum ban, but I have no idea what the other ban is, as Burst Sky are going to lock in themselves a Rel to pair with this Aphelios Crimson.
They probably
maybe they are betting backs, or probably just missed it because I mean VCS teams drafting is hard. We do not really get to click buttons very fast, and yeah, I like the Camille ban because Camille Galio would have been an option for SBTC, especially you could relegate 2T to being the engage bot with the Galio pick, and Camille also has been a strong champion for Emperor in the past, and with the Ignite being already his preferred summoner choice here, it would actually be decent against the Renekton, ironically enough, because Renekton used to be a counter pick into the Camille, and Elio goes back to what used to be his thing in the winter split with going for these more unconventional engage support. This time it will be the Well. They also used to play like Leona Kai'Sa bottom lanes, but with Aphelios maybe the Well is a better suit for them. Also, it is decent against the Nautilus because you can have like this resistance shred, resistance steal mechanic with the Well. Also works fine here. And yeah, Emperor, what is really left to pick for him? It will eventually be the Tryndamere because a lot of top laners have been banned out, and the Tryndamere is maybe like the next best pick that is still available for him. And now Glory. Yeah, I wonder what his last pick will be. I mean, he could still go for like on the Orianna he did last game, but apparently he has different ideas.
And now Glory looking at towards this Vex as well. But Rebel, you talked about having the baby mid lane of the Gallia. Where does Rai sit on a scale of baby to Giga Chad hard?
I'm gonna raise you one here, which is the possibility of maybe the Tryndamere mid lane is the flex for Emperor, rather, in an attempt to try to put the Rise into the Renekton, which isn't terrible for the Rise, especially in the long lane. If you're playing far enough back from your wave, the Rise really doesn't have a bunch of threats to have to worry about against the Renekton, and that means that you end up getting like what is Emperor's Tryndamere into something in the mid lane that ends up being pretty effective. And I think they had to consider that, which is why you saw a bounce around of a couple of different champions. Whether or not that comes to fruition, I think is pretty rough. Now, as you ascertained, if we're expecting for 2T to go back into the mid lane guaranteed, up against the Syndra, I don't have high expectations for him, unfortunately. While yes, it does have some value, and yes, you can build it pretty tanky, I don't like it into Glory's Syndra, just because I have a fear that Glory's going to be able to bully it with advanced range, especially since Draktar's on something early game. It's a very rare situation where you're going to hear me give a nod of approval towards a Syndra pick because of the ability for it to bully this baby mid laner, unfortunately, on the side of SPTC.
So it's sounding to me like Rebel quite likes the Versus Sky draft, which means that he thinks SBTC is going to win. Crincy, your thoughts on the draft?
Quote me on this. SBTC's draft is garbage. I mean, the Tryndamere cannot really do anything together with TNK's Nidalee. It's damage and damage, not damage plus CC. You basically have to play around 2T in the mid lane here a little bit, and it is 2T in the mid lane for you. Good luck, have fun against the Syndra from the side of Glory. I mean, mid lane will probably lose anyway, even if you assist it with ganks, and I think DNK doesn't really have good things to work with here. So SPTC will likely lose this game as well. And versus Sky on their side, their draft is kind of rounded out despite not every pick being ideal, being the best scaling. I think this is a quick one.
So Crincy thinks SBTC have a bad draft and will actually lose. Now, Rebel, I put words in your mouth, so I'm going to let you actually say who you think wins this game.
I'm actually echoing that sentiment. SPTC bad draft, unless they swap the Rise and the Tryndamere, that'll make it a little bit better, but I'm expecting a Sky win one way or another.
Well, Carrix and Yulway, I believe it is your time to shine because we're heading on to the Rift for Game 2.
Yulway, I get it now. This is all a dream. I thought Game 1 was a bit weird, but it turns out I'm just asleep because I just heard Rebel praise a Syndra pick. This can't be real.
Yeah, and can I please point out that our analysts have been awfully inconsistent? Like, the last 2 days, the only thing I've heard from the analysts while hosting or while casting or just listening is, bad draft, so that means they win. And now they flip the script? Ah, come on, guys.
To be fair, that was mainly Tim, and Tim's not here tonight.
So I heard it in Game 1 as well, though.
This crop of analysts is completely consistent. But yeah, look, I do agree that I think Sky's come out with a better comp, but early aggression from SPTC moving in. They're stealing away a red buff, and this is completely undetected.
And look at the cover on the other side. They have a ward on their red buff as well, so they've planned this for a long way away. I am really scared for the top lane though, because Ryuk had a great performance. He's going Ignite, Conqueror Flash on this Renekton, so he is looking for solo kills. And Emperor, this matchup, I'm not awfully familiar with Tryndamere matchups, but I can't imagine it being too great for the Tryndamere, especially facing against the Ignite added burst as well, especially if Ryuk is able to get to level 6 first. I think he's just going to flash Ignite him level 6 and insta-kill him, so I'm keeping my eyes on Emperor and how he can withstand all the pressure from Ryuk. On the other side we have Elio on his love Drell, and we have seen that so many times. I'm urging the analysts to not instantly give Elio all the MVP points just because he's playing Rel and gets one good engage, because that happens every time we see a Rel in VCS.
Leona Syndrome.
Yeah. It's even worse with Rel, to be honest.
It is. Because she's got flashy engages. I can't blame them. It makes my monkey brain happy too. As up on the top side, we see Ryuk pushing in Enpa. As you said, this is not a great time for the Tryndamere as he gets chunked down once again. He actually needs to be really careful. There's potential for a flash ignite all in.
Oh, definitely.
We'll see if that... But the junglers are both heading up there. This could be an early clash.
Oh, and DNK should be... Oh, they're even right now. This is risky. If Draktar overextends, DNK can kill them both.
Yeah, I think with that flash, they're going to read it. They're just going to back off. So they just burnt both of Enpa's summoners. Sky lose nothing from this.
Yeah, I think DNK showed this tiny bit too early. If he waits 1 or 2 more seconds, maybe it's time. Oh, you're not done.
Drakthar going back in because he hits the Q. They're going to burn DNK down. He's going low. He's not going to go down yet, but the full rage bar will not save Tryndamere as he goes into the jaws of the Croc. Drakthar, it's not done as he ward hops forward but can't land the Q. DNK needs to be careful. The spear does not land and they will back off.
Very stylish attempt.
Hang on a minute. Okay. That got a little dicey, but it is just first blood.
Oh, both the junglers playing with us here on the screen. Beautifully done from both sides. Really looking for their last little opportunity to get the kill, but both of them actually getting away with it. This was a little bit of a bait. I think DNK played the whole situation wrongly. I think he came in too early. If he waits 2 more seconds...
Flash the spear. Kind of looked like he thought the spear was on the enemy team. But never mind. As we come back out, and there's another kill.
Oh, it's going from bad to worse for SE. Now they're losing mid lane. Nice roam from the bot lane just to secure the mid lane kill. That's one over to Glory. He had an amazing game 1, and he's already the much better laner. He's a very, very strong laner. He showed that in the winter split. Some of our analysts actually predicted him to be maybe even the best mid laner. I believe he was first picked by Marby. So, yeah, let's see this again.
She did say it's because it was a Glory stand moment, but never mind. As yeah, I mean, what can 2T do there?
To be fair to Glory, he had an amazing second half of winter. I think he was definitely in contention for #1 mid lane. I think you have to give the nod to Yado just by virtue of being the best control mage player, but Glory's lane dominance and his champion diversity actually played a huge part in Sky's surge, so he needs to continue with that. And Glory isn't the newest player in the league anymore. He has been here for a while, he has been hyped for all the time he's been in the league, and now he really has to put in the work to show everyone that he is here to stay. He is one of the best veteran mid laners in our league. As BTC is looking for the first kill of the game, but Ryuk is in such a good position. Safe under tower with Rage Bar stacked as well, so extra healing. Oh, he's going in!
Yeah, I think this is exactly what the thought was. They know Ryuk wants to move forward. They had to spring the trap a little bit early.
Good hook.
Oh, hook lands. Ryuk's in a lot of trouble. He's going low. He's going down. Great roam from Palat.
Ryuk needed to stay behind his tower to not be able to get hooked there. I think he didn't anticipate Palat moving into the top side, so he didn't want to give himself the harder dodge on the spear. But in the end, you kind of have to think you can dodge the spear anyway. So if he stayed under his turret, I don't think they can kill him without dying to him in return. So a little bit of a misplay there on the positioning, as Drakthar is looking for 2T. Ay.
He's already used the W. He can't get away from
Q.
this one if the Rise turns around. He can't. Ooh, misses the Q. He predicted a dodge that did not come. Now he's running around into the back of the Raptor pit. No flash, and Palat brings down the anchor. Elio is spotted by that sweeper. But I don't think they want to mess with Glory right now, but a little bit of just sloppy play there from Sky.
Yeah, 2Ts.
SBTC right back in this. As DNK coming in. Oh, the Unleashed Power actually kills with the very last orb there. Glory picking up that kill. Now they're going to try and turn it around as Elio going very low. Elio going down. Now, Glory stuck in a 2v1, but he's got a health bar lead your way. Can he actually make this one happen? DNK goes down! The scatter of the week was huge. That truly was a scatter of the week, Milky. As we go forward, Glory is 3-0.
Oh, Glory is smurfing today. I was super confused when he didn't go for the solo kill. For me, it looked like he had the kill down definitely there with Rise and half HP. We don't want to watch this again. Drakthar losing an absolute 100% assured kill. 2T didn't even try to dodge. Drakthar just angled it the wrong way. That is not great from Drakthar, but let's cut him some slack. Let it Glory here. I think after landing the E or Q, I don't remember what it was. Yeah, the E. I think this is 100% a kill if you just press this R. So not really sure why he stepped back and had to flash after that, but once again, Glory made up for it with another kill onto, I believe, DNK, was it? It was? Yeah, and Glory with the minion wave, with the pot ticking, he's full HP, he has the W ready. Just very nice play there. Glory dominating the mid lane today. He is the better mid lane, and he is putting everything in to carry his team over the line.
As 2T once again stunned up. Glory is dominating this mid lane matchup. Something Rebel identified was very possible. It's coming to fruition. Drakthar once again moving in. They've got 3 around this mid lane. Neither team making too much of a move towards the Herald at the moment, but Drakthar, he's been sipping his aggression juice.
Well, and now the game has stabilized a little bit more, mostly because Drakthar is throwing away gold at the enemy team. But look at the top lane. Emperor is actually ahead in CS compared to Ryuk. That's rather surprising to me. He's level 7 now, so he can get away from the all-in from Ryuk. The anticipated level 6 all-in with Ignite and Ultimate didn't come to fruition, mostly due to the pressure. But we have a fight brewing. Glory is here, and he's so strong.
Oh, Drakthar, lovely stuff as he boots the enemy jungler into the middle of the enemy team, uses a smite to heal himself, and is going to be able to walk out. Dominus is running. Emperor is here. He's low, but he's Tryndamere. He goes down regardless. The long-range kill comes in. Drakthar will fall, but it's 2 for 1, and Sky get the Herald.
Such good aim from Armin, and he doesn't get the kill. That's so sad. But good aim from Celebrity as well, getting the kill on the back end of the fight, so at least a little bit of gold into his pockets. Glory is an issue, though, and... oh, that's another kill.
Oh.
Well, Ryuk got caught by an anchor, I believe. Didn't even bother to flash away. Let's look at this again. It's great. It's a great collapse, and Drakthar setting up the kill easily. The ultimate is a little bit of overkill even from Glory. He might have been able to kill 2T if you ulted 2T immediately there. And let's look at Armin. This is such a nice ultimate from Armin, but it's not quite enough to get the kill. And Celebrity just a tiny bit short on actually getting the objective as well. But in the end, it's another kill. Celebrity getting away with 2 kills here is huge. So, once again, the carry pans on Celebrity, and maybe he's able to do something this time around. This might be another kill.
It certainly might be. We're going to have to go look at the bot lane instead, as Elio just gets cleaned up, and, okay, we got the worst of both worlds in terms of what we were watching there.
Well, observers having to navigate between the 2 lanes, not quite able to do so. Well, we're going to see the replay.
Observers have not drunk their cup of Castrol today. Need to get that in there. It's good for their bones.
Well, it's 2 kills. It's a kill on either side. I think the kill is more important for Sky to shut down a Celebrity's advances. They also open up the tower to get 2 platings of Ryuk. That's another kill worth of platings. He might even get 3 platings. That's horrifying. Man, AD top laners are so disgusting to watch against platings. Celebrity might have been able to finish the recall. It was so close. But to be fair to him, he's actually strong enough to be able to consider
he wins
a 1v1.
Right?
I mean, he didn't. In fact, this was a solo kill, so he doesn't win the 1v1. He could have tried to play with the minions maybe a little bit better to try and dodge a Q there. But in the end, it's a very close affair. He almost got away with it, but this gives Sky another breath of fresh air, and they might be able to get another objective, stacking the dragons on their side today.
Yeah, a bit of a flip from the last game. This was SPTC. Oh, the Gravitum ultimate has come in. Instant cleanse, though, does get Celebrity out. That's the Ophelio Assault on cooldown.
And while everyone is struggling on SPTC's side the whole week, I think we have to give credit to the bot lane in this game at least. I think both of the bot laners have played a good game.
Sorry, your way. We have to cut you off, as there has been a realm warp up onto the top side at Enpa on a completely fair and balanced champion that definitely has not sentenced him to an eternity in hell. The Tryndamere managing to tank the tower for a long time and get away with a free kill.
And Sky has completely forsaken their top laner. They've told Ryuk, well, you had your chance at level 6. You were supposed to dominate this lane. Oh, okay, Glory, that's a big shutdown.
This is a little bit of throw. Oh no, your way. Oh, thank God, he does finally go down. I was terrified for a moment he was going to get away with that.
Man, those fat Syndras are so annoying to play against. Your team is calling you to help, and then as an ADC, you want this shutdown. You see the 800 gold in your eyes, and then Syndra just turns around, laughs at you, presses one button, and you die. So, feels bad for Celebrity there. Shutdown goes over to 2T, who had to invest the flash, so he's once again vulnerable to another solo kill from Glory. In the end, it's a nice little money induction for 2T. I don't think it's really going to change the mid lane matchup for the foreseeable future, but still, SPTC playing a much closer game. They haven't lost the game in 30 minutes, which is definitely a different look from the last game, and Emperor is scaling up to be a huge side lane threat, actually.
He is. He has now got his Gale Force. As you said, he's ahead in CS of Ryuk. Has not been taken control of whatsoever. This Tryndamere could take over the game. This could be a silver solo queue angle where he just sits in the side lane the entire game and people forget to deal with him. It's very possible. I've seen it happen. But for now, Sky are still in full control.
And we actually need to see him stay in the side lane, never touch the team fights, because you cannot team fight against this team as Tryndamere. They have such an insane amount of peel, disengage, and CC to lock you down. Just don't go there. Just don't even bother. They have, you just can't penetrate the front line to get to Armina here. So just stay in the side lane. You are going to win against Renekton the more the game goes on. So I think this is certainly the side lane angle. I'd be hesitant to say they are going to win the game through side laning, because we're talking about SPTC, not the greatest macro team in the world. There's Lowry. This is scary.
They're going in. There's a lot of CC. The Undying Rage
beautiful.
has been popped already. Another stun. I think he's in trouble. Can he get the kill in time? He can't. The spear doesn't land. Very well navigated there by Sky.
Oh, the rocket.
They saw it fire. They saw it fire. Well done.
Elio's putting in some really good work on the rel, so he's justifying that 3 points there already written down from my analysts. I know them, especially Milky. But yeah, that was really clean from Elio, interrupting the dash for Enper and then also stunning him when he flashed on top of Glory, so giving Glory enough time to wait out the ultimate from Enper and get the kill back. But you can see, Enper can even threaten Glory, and Glory is 7-1, so this side lane is gonna be a huge problem. I think Sky's going to have to group and maybe look at the Baron in 5 minutes. So this is now a little bit of a precarious spot in the game, even though they're still comfortably ahead.
And another Herald going over to Sky. That is potentially going to give them a bit more control on the map whenever they want to drop it. They still need to take down this outer mid tower. I think that's actually needs to go down pretty soon. I think they need to start really aggressing their lead, or Enper is going to continue to scale and scale and scale.
Yeah, I think Sky is mostly looking at the dragon stacking right now. 2T needs to be very careful, the in-case here, but he doesn't really offer anything in terms of CC, so Glory might just be able to either turn on him or ignore him and finish the kill on 2T. We've seen this happen before in mid lane, so it's not really the greatest attack on Glory to bring the Nidalee in there. And the Nautilus is a much better attempt, but now they've overextended on the top side. This opens up the river to Sky and the mid lane as well, so I'm not sure about SPTC's movement on the map right now. They're conceding absolutely everything here.
Yeah, and I feel like it's less valuable to have 2T in a side lane than it would be to have Enper there instead, as now Enper's been forced to come to the group to make sure that another tower doesn't fall, and so that doesn't fall. So that's time that your Tryndamere is not farming. It's going to be a third Drake picked up, Soul Point acquired for Sky. I want to float a theory by you, though, while we're looking at a dragon. Do you think Infernal Drake really matters in this game? And I know Infernal Soul, rather. And I know the instant reply is, of course it does, it's Infernal Soul. But I think this game hinges on stopping Enper, and offensive stats don't actually help that much against Tryndamere.
Well, it does help on the other side,
5
though.
seconds regardless.
You have to remember what you can also do to stop this Tryndamere when he's unstoppable in the side lane on his own. You just put 5 members into the mid lane and dive. And for that, damage matters a whole lot. If you add 200 more damage to the combo of Glory, to Aomina's ultimate, especially on 2 more items, then suddenly Celebrity just disappears. So I actually think it's a really nice soul for Sky to have, to completely ignore Enper, and just play the 5v4 or 4v4 and just win the team fights and brute force under towers. It's risky, and Ryuk is probably dead here as Enper is his ultimate.
I don't think he is. He's dodged absolutely everything that the Nidalee threw. Oh, the Realm Warp will lock him down, though. Never mind. 2T getting the kill there, but it's a hell of a lot invested.
And this is not this is not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to bring members to the Tryndamere. Tryndamere is supposed to fend for his own. And look at this. The map is in disarray. They're losing 2 more outer turrets. SPTC is misreading their whole composition. They're getting kills on the 1 and 3 Renekton, but what for? What's this good for? This doesn't do anything. This doesn't advance the game state. The Renekton is useless anyway. If you kill him one more time, yeah, it's nice gold into 2T's pockets, but even that is going to be diminishing returns soon, so I think they're just horribly misreading the whole game state, and they've lost another mid lane tower, so contesting the next dragon is gonna be nigh impossible, especially if the bot lane pushed in. You can freeze the bot lane in this position now, be super safe for Ryuk, just give him a little bit of resources, a few levels under his belt. 3 minutes, there's going to be a huge team fight, you have to contest the soul, and then the game's probably over. So yeah, I think SPTC is just making blunder after blunder in their macro decisions.
Yeah, and it's a shame to see, because this is a lot of a better showing than game 1 at the very least. The NPA DNK duo, at least justifying their position in the team, but overall SPTC definitely not looking like the better team of the two. There's Elio and Gloria here, but there's 3 members of SPTC. Ooh. Do you really want to take this risk over a red buff?
Okay, DNK actually having to commit his smite to not lose the red buff to Glory. Glory was just inches short of connecting the E, and that's probably Palette's death there. Especially as he has no easy way to proc his Aftershock as... Okay, what just happened?
The stream had a moment. That's okay, we're back. It doesn't matter.
A little bit of a time jump. We're back to see this again. An insta replay, actually.
Wow, yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks, thanks, YouTube. Anyway, let's power through it. It doesn't matter. We've traveled through time plenty of times your way. As Baron is about to spawn, he's coming on the map right now. A Sky just gonna rip a 20-minute Baron.
There's a good ward this time around, though, to spot them out. I don't like Baron here for Sky. There's such an easy win condition, but they're going to try it anyway. The weapon's not the greatest for Almina, actually the lowest damage weapons possible on the Baron, so I guess you can go a purple and green as well, but this is just a bait. I think this is just a bait for a fight. They want to fight. Are SPTC going to get baited into this? Why is Tryndamere not in bot lane pushing the tower?
It's a good question your way. He probably should be, because just by walking up, Sky have been forced off the Baron. The Tryndamere could be hitting a tower right now. I feel like this... I mean, he is hitting a tower. He could be hitting a different tower. He could be hitting the bot lane tower. But regardless, Sky overstep, and they lose a tower for nothing.
Yeah, and Sky was so skittish about this Baron secure. They were down to 4k. Just force the Baron at that point. The enemy team has to overcommit, and even if they steal away the Baron, sure, it's not great, but then again, it's Baron in an even game state. You get at least 2 kills from them trying to steal the Baron, I think, because they have to overcommit. So you get 2 kills for the Baron, that's fine, or you get 2 kills and the Baron, that's even better. Why do you walk away from the Baron and open up the mid tower for free? That was just a little too hesitant, too indecisive a decision from Sky. They haven't really lost much, but mid lane control is quite important, because in 30 seconds, not minutes, we do have the soul spawning, and all the earlier effort into pushing the mid wave, punishing the overextension in the bot lane from SPTC, has now kind of been in vain. So yeah, Sky losing the easy setup for the Baron. Let's see how they can overcome this disadvantageous map positioning.
Also, your way, the issue...
Okay, this is the...
Oh, never mind. As Drakthar hits the kick, DNK thrown into the middle of the enemy team. It's a big flamethrower ultimate coming out of the Aphelios as well. Celebrity caught out, and oh god, everything I was about to say is rendered irrelevant as Sky dominate the team fight. Enpa cannot cheese himself a kill with the Undying Rage, and Drakthar wants no survivors. None to tell the tale as 2T is being hunted down. The Sonic Wave, the resonating strike, he is burning down. One more toss of the dragon will be all they need. They will move over, they will claim a soul, and they slingshot themselves 4k ahead.
Drugtha redeeming himself for earlier struggles. What an amazing engage again to kick, I believe it was 2T this time, then killing Celebrity on the side, isolating both carries, basically setting up both carries to die. We also saw Enper trying to teamfight on Tryndamere. Well, it had the expected result, I'd say. And now Sky walking away with the teamfight win, with the Dragon Soul confirmed. Now Baron is much easier. Now everyone is going to look at 3 items. Glory, no one can even step up to Glory. Not a single member. I think the only one is probably Enper, and he has to ultimate immediately. So, yeah, Glory is a super scary Syndra. And even Aomina is going to get close to one-shot potential on the carries, with the next item finished in just about 2-3 minutes. So, this game is all but secured for Sky. I think this is just the finishing touches they're going to put in here.
Yeah, I have to agree, as they will once again take control of this mid lane. They've reset, they've bought items. They have become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Ping
and
pong.
so is the boot of Drakthar. Once again, DNK has been tasting leather, as Drakthar has been kicking him all over the joint. They move straight over to the Baron. This one will be the real one. And it looks like it might be a 2-0.
Hey, and Enper is finally in the side lane, but now Rubik has profited from so much of his team's power that he's able to fend him off on the tower. They're going to... Wee, nicely done. Good dodge. Stepping away from the Baron, because the Baron is not going to activate the rocket, so you can definitely see.
Not anymore.
That's very nice to see. In the end, DNK just with an overstab. He got the blue buff, so I guess worth it. But yeah, Drakthar putting in a really nice, really clean mid-game in all the fights and all his map positioning. He's playing very aggressively. This has to be revisited in the next series. We need to think about Drakthar and his super aggressive mid-game positioning when they are going to face a team with a less horrific early game. But for now, he's definitely putting in a lot of work for his team.
Yeah, 100%. I think he's playing super, super well. Though Glory is the star of this one. It's hard to ignore that, as Paulette will throw out a hook, gets a whole lot of knout from it, except half of his health bar removed, as it was only Elio on the end of the line. The tower falls. Almine just doesn't care. Look how aggressive he's being, standing basically front line, but there's no one from SBTC that can actually punish him. As they take one inhibitor, they rotate over to mid, and this is looking reminiscent of last game.
Oh yeah, it is. And look at Enper just walking around. He just can't do anything. Now it's a 5v5, and this is not where your Tryndamere shines. He had some opportunities in this game. Maybe not quite to win the game, but to really put a lot of pressure on Sky. Oh no, Sky, they cancelled the recalls. There's a TP from Glory coming in.
Yeah, Elio will jump away. The rocket doesn't get the kill either. Enper does manage to get one. He spins away, but falls.
Do we want this? No!
Celebrity charging forward. There's the Realm Warp use. This is last chance saloon your way. I like this. You may as well try.
Glory.
Glory flashing forward. Glory picks up a double. Can he find anything more? As he throws out an orb. He doesn't quite have access to the E yet. And in the end, it is the 3 for 2. SBTC, it doesn't work out, but honestly, I like it. It doesn't get better after that reset.
That's a fair shout.
That was your last chance, right? Like, yeah, okay, 99% of the time you lose it, but who cares? Like, right? As Drakthar moves in once again, this will be the game taken down your way. Sky taking a 2-0 win over SBTC.
And rather comfortably so. This game had a little bit more fight back. I think this is definitely the stronger of the two lineups from SPTC, but still not strong enough to really put a lot of pressure on Sky. They walk away with 2 sub-30-minute victories after falling to Luxury in a similar fashion. So Sky, yeah, they might not be on the same level as Luxury or Gum right now, but they are still a strong team, and they definitely bounced back after the very bad day 1 performance. They looked much better, much more cohesive, still a little bit too aggressive here and there maybe, but the lane performances and their mid-game coordination, even the macro in game 1 was very, very admirable. So I think this team is here to stay, and they've kind of squashed the first doubts that were creeping in after the winter performance.
I agree. Now we will be going straight back over to our analyst desk to break down the triumphant Sky and give their commiserations to the chickens. Take it away, Milky and the lads.
I think you're muted, Milky.
Yep. Milky, you
Yep.
gotta unmute your Discord, mate. There you go.
I made a witty comeback at Carrick's in your way about how they were being mean to me in the cast and how I'd get them back, but I would do it after the next series so that they'd have no opportunity to come back once again at me. But, however, it does seem that there will be no potential comeback for SBTC in this series. Bursa Sky taking a clean 2-0 Rebel.
It was it's a really nice step up for Burst the Sky, because obviously in that first series up against Luxury, we had high expectations. There was the fourth place match and a rematch of what had happened in the previous split, and Sky fell completely flat in that one. So to see them come out in such dominating fashion here in the second match of the week, be able to take a win, I think is humongous for their confidence.
And Quincy, kind of looking over to the other side, looking over to SBTC, what positives, if any, can they take away from this series looking towards week 2?
I think in the second game, I mean, I had said some not so nice things about the draft. I think considering that, the game was actually a lot closer than expected. I mean, Endpoint and the Twindermare didn't get completely crushed. It was like them, of course, focusing the top side a little bit more than maybe Ryuk did expect, but focusing the weak side didn't really do them many favors. And I gotta say, Celebrity played kind of fine in both games. He wasn't really the one who was that much in trouble here. And I think Tutti, I mean, we saw in the first game, he can get some kills early game onto the Victor. And this game, he didn't get completely crushed in lane. I think if he like fixes his laning issues a little bit more, then he could become a stronger player. And he is a rookie. I mean, maybe we shouldn't be too harsh on him. But gotta say, him having no substitute might be rough for SPTC. But if Tutti just improves a tiny bit more, I think there's at least some potential to take some wins here for the side of SPTC.
So one question I do have for the pair of you is essentially Enpa and DNK or Simon and Spot? And Rebel, I'll go to you first on this one.
I think like the immediate answer to me is gotta be Enper and DNK. Now, I will say I don't think Spot's performance necessarily was what killed them in game number 1. I think there were a lot of disastrous things happening all around the map. And DNK does have a playstyle that I think warrants putting more resources into him. So if the team is not comfortable doing so, then possibly Spot might actually be an answer. But one way or another, I think Enper has got to be on the top side. I feel like Simon is like basically chalking up top lane to a loss most of the time, or at least trying to just like neutralize that lane to the best of their ability. Enper has chances of winning lanes. I've seen at least some evidence of that. Even if it doesn't happen all splits, the chance is still there, and I think it's worthwhile to explore. Now, DNK versus Spot, obviously DNK, he's got the name value. He showed us what he's capable of doing. But again, if the team isn't capable of playing towards him, then you have to at least consider Spot if he really does have the talent that we expect him to have.
Okay, and Quincy, your thoughts on top and jungle?
I would echo that statement mostly. I think Spot didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't do anything in general. So he didn't really get his fair chance yet. So we cannot really write him off. On the top side, I would say, on the top lane more specifically, I would say with Enper, as a slight versus Sky fan, I at least would have felt threatened this game that he could maybe turn the game around. With Simon, not so much. So I would definitely favor Enper over Simon. But in the jungle, it's less decided. Gotta say, DNK maybe made more arguments for himself than against him, but I mean, his Nidalee, it was a first pick Nidalee, and he didn't really have the game impact he hoped he had, I dare say. But Spot didn't do anything wrong. I think the jungle position is up in the air, but top, it looks very much Enper favored, for sure.
I don't think either jungler necessarily. I don't think necessarily either jungler has too much to. You can't really judge their performance today because it's just the Church of Drakthar is all over the place. Mass is in session this weekend, and you got to see it on full display today. So,
okay, and the final question that I have for both of you is taking a look to next week, and for both of these teams, Burst Sky are playing against Cerberus. SPTC are playing against Luxury. I don't want to know who you think wins because I know what your answer to that is going to be. I want to know, as a total from these two teams, how many games out of the two series do you think they will win? Quincy, I'll go to you first.
So in addition to each other or separately?
Yes. Yeah, in addition to each other.
Which one? Okay.
So both of them. If you think it'll be 2-2-1 series, then your answer would be 2.
Okay. I think it's 2, but not the way you think it is. I think Cerberus
Oh,
look lost.
okay.
I think
Right.
Versus Sky can beat Cerberus because Cerberus look definitely off, and maybe they are not back in form up until next week. And I hate to say it, but I called Glowy the discount Yado. I think after what I've seen so far, it's more like Yado is the discount Glowy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We will quote this and bring it back in next week on Saturday when that game comes through. Rebel, what's your answer to the question?
4.
Ooh, okay. Okay. 4. You do
4.
realize it's not best of 5s, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Bold statement from our analysts. We'll see how things pan out next week. However, we're going to be jumping into a break, and when we return, we'll be having our second series of the day, a Saigon Buffalo take on Luxury, and I hopefully will remember to unmute my mic when we return.